Welcome to my Film Frenzy YouTube channel. Today I will tell you about the movie The Mummy in 2017. In the distant past, in the heart of ancient Egypt, lived Princess Omonet, tall in design and strength, raised in luxury, but doomed to become a pawn in political intrigues. Her father could have given the throne not to her, but to his son. Betrayal and hope for a forbidden power led the girl to make a deal with a god whom people did not fully understand, the god of chaos, a dark entity whose name was associated with destruction and blood among the ancients. When Omonet's plans were revealed, she had to pay the price. She was accused of murder, convicted and sealed alive in a sarcophagus, buried in the desert, where sacred spells and mechanisms would not allow her to leave. We see this era through hard, dry details, sand, copper plates, fierce steers, and remnants of blood on our hands. Then the story makes a huge temporal leap into our time, into the scorching desert of modern Iraq, where the main plot unfolds. Nowadays, the desert steals not only old bones, but also modern adventures. There, a group of soldiers and antiquity seekers found the remains of past centuries. Among them are two Americans who earn dubious part-time jobs, and an archaeological expedition that eventually uncovers a sarcophagus sealed for centuries. They do not understand the all-encompassing danger, the dim light of torches, ancient inscriptions, traps and fresh, as if freshly applied, cloth on a mummified body. The sarcophagus is opened, and with it the dark story of Omonet descends. In the confusion, archaeologists and the military break the ancient seals, and the one that was sealed begins to regain its power. The first scenes of the return of the undead are a combination of subtle mysticism and cruelty. Shadows, whispers, people who see things that defy explanation. The main character is Nick Morton, a careerist and adventurer looking for profit and fame, no stranger to risky transactions. Next to him is his companion, also a man of iron, with whom they steal treasures and sell them left and right. Nick is not a 17th century anti-hero. He is modern and cynical, but he has a spark of humanity, the ability to be attached, albeit hidden under the guise of self-preservation. When, in the midst of the secrets revealed, Nick finds himself linked to Omonet, the mark she uses to mark those who will become her vessel, his life changes forever. This mark is not just a brand, it is slowly changing Nick's biology. Small changes, nightmares, visions become stronger and cloud his mind. Omonet, who has returned to life, does not look like a tracing paper from black and white horror films. She is an overwhelmingly attractive and scary woman, with an ancient anger and a plan to return her body to true flesh. Her nature is a combination of personal revenge, ancient religious faith, and a desire for power. She wants to be reborn in a world that did not intend to serve her, and for this she needs a vessel, a living body that will accept her soul. The story takes the action to London, a city where ancient artifacts end up in museums and private collections, under the watchful eye of science and government. Nick ends up with the found objects in the hands of those who consider themselves capable of managing threats, a secret organization dedicated to investigating the supernatural, Prodigonium, led by doctors and monster hunters. It is led by a charismatic and mysterious doctor, a man who knows more about dark entities than anyone else, Dr. Henry Jekyll. Meeting with this organization gives the narrative a new twist. We see that the world has long known about what lies beyond the normal, and structures and strategies have been created to combat this. However, even trained people don't have complete confidence. Omonet, being in the human world, explores the possibilities. She is able to subdue the will and turn the crowd into a tool. She sows disease and pain. She knows how to handle a slow but deadly infection that turns people into empty shells or into angels of death carrying her will. Her influence is spreading rapidly. First, small incidents, then system failures, deaths without explanation, people who are later not subject to conventional medicine. Nick notices that he gives up control of himself in moments of greatest danger. His actions seem alien to him, and sometimes he finds traces of what he does not remember. Meanwhile, Jekyll and his team are trying to localize the threat by researching ancient texts and monuments, trying to understand exactly what Amunet wants and how to stop it. In parallel, the personal story of Nick and Jenny, a young archaeologist who was originally part of the excavation and saw the truth about the sarcophagus and the curse, unfolds. She helps Nick gently and persistently. Despite his cynicism, a complex bond develops between them, a mixture of mutual attraction, guilt, and the realization that their destinies are intertwined. They both see their lives falling apart, but they also become the only support for each other when it seems to everyone else that there is no hope. As the story progresses, the scale of the threat becomes global. Lack of explanations, blaming mysticism and power, mass hysteria. Amunet uses the irony of modernity, social networks, large gatherings, symbols of power. She infects them with her ideology and physicality. The city is in panic, crowds are fleeing, sirens are sounding, cities and streets are turning into a battlefield between senseless fear and organized attempts to stop the collapse. The climax of the story revolves around a struggle of intentions. Amunet seeks to place her essence in a living body and complete her birthright. Her success means returning to the world of a force that will destroy the order. Based on human laws, Jekyll and his team are trying to lock her out using ancient artifacts, knowledge, and technology. Nick is increasingly aware of the cost of his actions. His inner conflict, to become what Amunet uses, or to preserve the remnants of humanity and resist it, becomes the heart of the narrative. The final battle takes place in the dungeons and sewer tunnels of London, in a maze where the city's past intersects with its modern appearance. The bones and stones of ancient buildings are woven into the infrastructure of the metropolis. This space is ideal for dramatic confrontation, limited corridors, water, reflection of light, tunnels leading to a colossal mystery. Amunet uses her powers, turning people into puppets, into a night that absorbs light. She becomes almost invulnerable. Jekyll, tired but determined, enters the battle using all his resources. Nick, exhausted and tormented, makes a choice. He takes a risky step, not to give her a place in which she can finally incarnate. The final act is a moment of sacrifice and liberation. Nick, influenced by what he has experienced, but still human, makes a decision that destroys Amunet's plan. He goes directly against her, violating her right, risking his own life. In a struggle full of symbols, fire, water, ancient words that no longer sound the same, he pushes her away, forcing the forces that fueled her to turn against herself. As a result, the ritual breaks down. The ancient rebirth machine she hoped for collapses. The earth she drew strength from is struck. This is not an easy victory. The price is high. Some characters' lives are cut short, while others are left with physical and mental scars. However, in the world of monsters, victory is rarely final. After shock and destruction, a trail of questions remains. What exactly was defeated? Is the entity really destroyed or just locked up? The final shots remind us that ancient things don't disappear forever, they find ways to return. Nick comes out of the underworld, changed forever, with a mark that reminds him of what he went through. He is not quite who he was anymore. His body and spirit have been melted down by experience, and there is a dark, but not necessarily malicious force in this. Jekyll, for his part, shows that fighting monsters is an eternal task that requires courage and new methods. In the afterword, we see hints of a wider universe, artifacts that are still needed for hunting, collections and archives that hold stories of other mysteries. The result of this story is not just a thriller about a resurrected mummy. It is a story about human choice, about the line between the thirst for power and the consequences of this thirst, about how the past, remaining unsolved, affects the present. Omelette is a symbol of ancient injustice. Thank you for your attention. See you soon.